How's it going? Facebook and Twitter, Periscope,
Instagram,
YouTube, all the interweb, Twitch. There's 12-year-olds on Twitch that are wondering why we're interrupting their Mario Kart game. And we want to welcome you to episode number 2 of Dial a Drummer.
Welcome, everybody.
We actually made it kind of on time today.
We did. We're doing good.
You know, like a minute after noon.
It's progress.
Yeah, we're progress. Baby steps. One step at a time.
Absolutely.
In fact, I got a cool step for you. Check this out.
What you got?
So, this is Shannon Kori.
Hello, everybody. How you doing today?
I'm Brian Stephens. And see, we got this cool little thing that has our name on
fancy.
it. So in case I ever forget my name,
right?
I just hit that button and I'm instantly reminded that I am now Brian Stephens again. And what I didn't do is I did not send out to all our socials that we were going live. So hopefully you are already watching us today here on Dial a Drummer. We are here. I'm going to use another awesome thing here. We're here every single Monday.
Absolutely.
At noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. for now. We're playing around with times, but right now
we're working on that.
Noon is what we're settling on. We're here noon Eastern, 9 a.m. if you're on the left coast. Hello to all my friends in LA. We're going to do some live call-in today and try our live call-in line out. That number is 678-929-1230. I'd already told Shannon I was going to let him do that, but I just did it. And hopefully you already realized that we're already across every social network known to man.
We're trying to hit all the platforms.
Except for China, where we have yet to get clearance. I think it has something to do with maybe one of your extra jobs.
Well, you know, we can't talk about that.
So if people wanted to interact with us today, Shannon, how are they going to do that?
They're going to call in at 678-929-1230. Give us a call. We'll take your questions. It can be about anything drummer related, music related, whatever. We're experimenting with this whole call-in thing, so please, let's do it.
Yeah, this is our day to test out the call-in line and see how well that thing works. And we'll take your questions, but also we're going to table a few topics, and
Absolutely.
You can weigh in on any of those topics. We would love to hear what you have to say about those particular things.
With that being said, you want to jump on a topic and get moving?
Well, let's finish telling them how they can they can get into us. If you have a question and you don't want to talk, you can always. And this is where they need to make this bigger so I can. I didn't make a hashtag. Oh well, I can show this. Excuse me while I play with my technology. That sounded bad, didn't it? You can.
It's a family show.
Yeah. You can hashtag Dial a Drummer on most of the social networks. Keep an eye on that because it's going to keep wanting to sleep on us. We've got an app where we're monitoring all of our different chat rooms for people that are making comments and may have a question. If you want to tag us on something, tag us on Dial a Drummer, hashtag Dial a Drummer, and you can always put that into the queue there. And put that little bug down there. So we're kind of playing with our technology, really trying to work out the call line today. We'd love to hear you call in. You can hashtag us. You can email during the week. Oh, hey, you know what? I do have one of those. Check this out. One day I'm going to be able to do this without having to look down. Email the show. Look at that. You can email the show at
dialadrummer@gmail.com.
Easy enough, right? I'm trying to make this as easy as I possibly can for everybody. Right. Yeah, you only have one or two things that you have to
any social
remember.
Platform, Dial a Drummer, you can find us.
Yeah, that's kind of how this works. And I just realized, Happy Father's Day, by the way, belated Happy Father's Day
to you.
Did you have a great Father's Day?
It was fantastic. Absolutely.
Did you do anything special?
Yes, had a great church gig. Went to lunch with my folks.
Yep.
Got to have some time with my dad, and then took the girls. We went to see Mamma Mia at the Fox last night.
Oh, very cool.
It was a great show. Yeah, so
Mamma Mia.
Great day. Great day.
How
about yourself?
I
Of course I
worked
was singing along. How can you not like the tunes of ABBA? Come on.
Yeah. Great show. Every tune's a hit.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them. I did like you. I worked my church gig till about mid-afternoon, and then came home and ate food I wasn't supposed to be eating. That's not on my diet, including chocolate cake.
Cheat day.
If you're following me on Instagram, you saw my chocolate cake. And then we took the dogs down to the river.
Nice.
And first time they'd been down to the river, and we let them swim, and it was cool. And we had a good time with it.
Relaxing day. It's nice.
I just realized this week as I was putting together stuff for the show that the moniker or if you take the initials of Dial a Drummer and just write acronym, maybe is that the correct word?
The acronym
I'm
is.
not too smart. Dad.
That's it.
It's the Dad Show.
We were clever in this thinking.
Everybody in Twitch is going like,
we already knew
just figured out. Yeah. So what is Dial a Drummer? Dial a Drummer is a great show where we talk about different topics in our hour together. We're going to talk about Peter Criss and his announced retirement, and hopefully, time permitting, we're also going to get to let's scroll down right here, Brian, so you can, because my memory doesn't always serve me, gigs that shaping your career through live gigs is really what I sort of called that. The idea, eventually, we're going to talk about gigs you shouldn't take, and my hope is that people are going to call in today with either your thoughts about Peter Criss, if you love him, if you hate him, we don't care, we just want to talk about it. Maybe some of your own tips and tricks for YouTube or any online learning platforms that you use and what you think about them, your own personal review, your experience with them, and then the gig from hell. I'd like to get a couple of calls today where people will tell us about their gig from hell.
Okay, that's a good one.
Because I'm sure you've got one or two of your own.
I probably do.
and to incentivize people, because sometimes you just need to. You need to use a little bit of a carrot.
A little tease, absolutely.
Yep. We for people that call today, we are going to give away some things. What are we going to give away, Vanna?
We are going to give away a Modern Vintage DVD Festival from 2010, brand new, fully wrapped in its packaging. We've also got a 25th Anniversary Drummers Collective.
Drummers Collective.
That we're going to give
DVD.
away.
Yep.
And then the big one is the cool Steve Smith US Beat and the technique, history of the US Beat and his drummer technique. It's amazing. This is one of the best ones out.
That's a cool one.
So we got some goodies.
What I should have done is I should have gone to your single camera right there.
Cam. So you can, hello.
Yeah, hold up the Modern Drummer Festival one. Hold that one up right there. Isn't that wonderful?
We're giving this one away today.
Cool.
See if I can get them all in the shot. Here we go.
Let's go to that camera.
There we go.
There's your camera. Look at that.
Nice.
Isn't that beautiful? So anyway, if you call today, if you call and talk with us, some lucky caller is going to win some kind of prize. And how about, Brian, you double tap that so while you're talking that people see you too. I'm telling you, we're slowly working this technology thing out.
And we would like to send a shout out and thank you to Adam Box for helping us launch last week with a great interview and great stuff. It was
Dude, like 1,000 people across all the different platforms, but 1,000 people sat and watched the show last week.
That's fantastic.
All the gaffes and all the technology errors and how unpolished it was. 1,000 people still got to enjoy hearing Adam Box tell his story. And we're going to have him back again. I've had people that have emailed us this week and said, well, we want to hear like his backstory.
Yeah.
They've got their own questions. So we're definitely going to have Adam come back, probably when he's got a break from his tour. And we're going to talk with him about more stuff. And we're going to table some of your questions as well. And I want to give a shout out to today, in the call screening room, we get this cool system, kind of like a radio station. This is like talk radio for drummers.
We're calling it a podcast, but it's live, it's video, it's phone, it's a lot of technology going on. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can interact with us. And my buddy Brandon is in the call screening room. So when you call in, you'll talk to Brandon first, and he'll find out who you are, where you're from, if you want to weigh in on one of our topics, or if you have a specific question that you want to answer. So when you call in, you'll get Brandon, and he'll talk to you for a few minutes. And thank you, Brandon, for taking your time to hang with us. And he's doing all this remotely because of technology. He didn't have to drive anywhere.
Right. He's probably not even out of bed yet.
No, he's still in his skivvies, feet up.
But Brandon, we appreciate you helping us today. Thank you so much.
So, and for those who don't know, when you call in, you'll actually hear the show over the phone line. For some reason you're watching through your phone, you're worried about missing one riveting moment of the show. You're worried we're going to drop a news bomb. We're fixing to drop a news bomb.
Right.
You will not miss it, because while you're on your phone, you'll still hear the show. It's wonderful how we got all this technology locked together to keep you in the loop and have you be able to do some cool stuff with us. So anyway, the first thing that I wanted to talk about today was, and let's see how this does for us, because I didn't So Fox News took it off of the thing. I don't really read Fox News a lot, and I'm not going to say anything more about them. But I saw a story on Saturday, I believe, that Peter Criss has officially announced his retirement from performing live at least.
Okay.
And I believe he's like 71 years old at this point. And so I really wanted to talk about that today for two reasons. Number one, to be honest, I'll throw that tape out of the way. Man, whoever's producing this show really needs to do a better job.
For one, for those that may not know, Peter Criss was the original drummer in the rock band Kiss.
Yes.
So this guy was a huge influence for a lot of players.
All through the 70s into the early 80s.
And then, they've had a couple of reunions here and there over the years.
Right. 96 was, I think, the first time they got back together, maybe.
Yeah.
Started with the Unplugged show, and then that's when the reunion stuff really started cooking. And then they went full on makeup. Well, I want to get, there's so many things I want to talk about. I love this.
Go, man.
To be honest with you, and this is where maybe I'm not as a good a fan as I used to probably be.
Right.
I kind of thought Peter Criss had actually already retired from performing.
Really?
I mean, sorry, Peter. I kind of thought at first it was a non-announcement to me.
Right.
But then I realized, well, the announcement's there because he had a show over the weekend at the Cutting Room in New York. Right. And there's already a ton of stuff that you've seen on social media.
I saw some in the USA Today this morning. There's a little article about it.
Cool.
Yeah. So they said he had a good show. He had a horn section, and he was singing and playing a little bit. So, yeah, I'm like you. I didn't realize this was really a thing or an announcement. But for those of you that are huge Peter Criss fans, if you got any questions, want to talk about him, talk about how he influenced you or any of those kinds of things, call in.
Yeah, by all means. He was...
Was he a big influence on you? Was that your...
As I've gone back the past few days and re-listened to a lot of things, and seeing that announcement kind of opened a door to a bunch of memories that I just kind of pushed them to the side. I had forgotten how big a fan I was of Peter and how influential he was. The thing about Kiss, though, and specifically him, is I saw him before I heard him.
Gotcha.
And especially in pop music culture, it seems like now there is a real critique in pop music about how it's all flash, it's all pomp and circumstance and not much music. But I think that sometimes we forget that when we were kids, a lot of times the music that we really gravitated towards was the music that we saw first.
Right.
So I remember being in the Winn-Dixie grocery store when I was in kindergarten. This is how far this goes back. I was in the Winn-Dixie grocery store in kindergarten with my mom, and there was a spiral notebook there with Peter Criss on the front.
Right on.
And he had full makeup, and he had drumsticks in his hand. So obviously he was a drummer. He had drumsticks in his hand, right?
Like, this is cool. This is a drummer.
And I'm sitting there going, Mom, I gotta have this. I have no idea what this is. It looks like Halloween and drumsticks.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it's only after I got that notebook, then I really started to dig into Kiss. What is this Kiss thing?
Right.
It was a lot harder then because we didn't have the interwebs.
Well, it says something too about the genius of their marketing.
Oh yeah.
Early on.
Yeah.
And they were
that they could get into
smart.
A grocery store in the middle of Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah. On a notebook of all things.
On a notebook of all things. And I remember just carting that notebook around even before I heard any of their music, and I was just riveted by what I saw. But then when I heard that, people forget because we're so far removed from it. 1972 was the first Kiss album, and it starts with drums.
Right.
Like Strutter comes out with drums.
Right.
Like the first thing that you hear is Peter Criss. The first thing that most people, when you put the needle down on that album, anytime in the 70s, if that was the first you ever heard of them was side A, you heard Peter Criss.
Right.
And
right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. And then come the second tune. Oh my gosh. And this blew my mind. I didn't realize this until I saw some video of them like on Midnight Special or something. You know, if you know that first Kiss album, you know where I'm going with this. Before Don Henley, before Phil Collins, before Zach from the Hanson Brothers, the first singing drummer that I was ever exposed to was Peter Criss. Was, you got nothing to lose. I'm like, who is that voice?
Right.
Oh my God. And then to see them live, that was the drummer. He's got a microphone on one of these big
booms. Looks like a crane.
You could hang all your laundry on that thing, and probably did. And I was like, he plays drums and he sings.
Right.
And he had this massive drum kit. And for me,
see, and I thought you were going to concert toms.
Oh man! Oh yeah, I was disappointed. My first kit, it wasn't concert times. I had on Christmas morning. I had to tell Mom and Dad this wasn't right. You got to take this back. Take it back. But for me, like you listen to that record, you listen to 100,000 Years. That's the first recorded drum solo I ever heard. Right. And on the album, it's just a little short break before that last verse. But it was a drum solo.
And especially to be featured,
yeah.
You know.
And then when you flash over to Alive 1, it's a full-blown drum solo.
Right.
You know, it's a whole drum extended. Like, that's where I learned that there are times when the band will stop playing and everybody pays attention to the drummer, not just the girls.
Right. Not just the girls.
So,
but isn't that the most important? Just
well,
the girls?
That's why I got into this.
I know, right? Anyway, that's another show.
Totally different show. But so man, that was, for me, that was groundbreaking. And then you get all the way to the last song on the record, Black Diamond. Not only are there lots of great drum fills in there,
great first record.
I'll go back a second. Deuce. You think about all the drum fills that are in Deuce. Now, in 2017, you know, and
sure.
the YouTube generation,
well,
that might not be a big thing.
Drumming chops in general have come a long way, but to understand the time, the era, even if you're not a big Kiss fan or a big Peter Criss fan, it's worth going back and listening.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like those subtle tracks we were talking about last week. There's some stuff on there that's worth checking out.
I guarantee you, if you go back and you listen to Deuce, like, in between all these riff breaks, you've got eighth note fills and 16th note fills, and you've got 16th note triplet fills. Like the first time I heard, like he was my Keith Moon, man. Like that big drum set, and here, like, you know, Keith Moon was my parents' music in my mind, you know, in the late 70s when I ran into them. But this guy, like, he was my Keith Moon.
Right on.
And there was a lot, especially that record in particular, there's a lot of these fills that he plays, real simple fills, but they start off with this little triplet kind of grace note-y thing that comes like straight out of big band Gene Krupa drumming. I'd never heard a rock drummer play these little frilly things in front of to set up the fill.
Right.
And at the time, especially, you know, when you're kindergarten or when I started playing drums, you know, 12, 13, 14 years old, that was a mystery to me.
Sure.
Like, what's that
What's
thing
he doing?
before the easy part that I know how to figure out?
Good.
He's so good. And then, of course, I couldn't go.
Right.
I couldn't do that. I can barely do it now.
Not to mention he had a huge drum kit. You're like, oh, how nice is that?
It was sparkly, silvery glass.
You're like, I have 4. This is not cool.
I'm not nearly as cool as Peter Criss, but one day. So
he's saying he's retiring from performing. So good for him and happy retirement. And I hope he's doing well. And, you know, we just thought it would be a great topic to kind of open up with today and see what kind of response we get. Because, you know, he is a legend. And we're getting to the point where a lot of the legends are either retiring or unfortunately passing on.
Right.
We're in a weird, especially for you and myself.
Yeah.
In our age bracket that, you know, a lot of these people we grew up being inspired by are, if you will, aging.
Yeah.
You know, so it's things are changing a little
They're
bit.
definitely aging out, and we're losing some of them. And it makes you wonder, where's the next crop of hero?
Right.
You know, the guy that captivate, especially for drummers. You know, the YouTube generation, go back to that camera so you can see me while I talk.
Right.
It's important it's important you see me. I want to see me.
It's all about me.
It's all about me.
More me mix.
Oh, put that on a topic. That's a show topic. Okay, we'll put that in the spreadsheet later. Yeah, for the YouTube generation, there are a lot of guys that they have to look at that are playing solo drums.
Right.
But to have a guy who had a very unique style that played music in a band with other people and traveled the world playing these songs that were the soundtrack of our childhood, our existence.
A lot of youth. Absolutely.
I mean, there's not a ton of that nowadays. There's a lot of drum athleticism. There's a lot of that look at me.
There's a lot of chops.
Yeah, and a lot of that drummers playing by themselves.
But there's not so much. It's not so much a band construct much anymore.
Right.
You don't see a lot of bands that started together, still together.
Right.
That created a sound as much as you used to.
So, Peter, I hope you enjoy your retirement. I would love it if they decide to maybe do just a couple more shows and
Have everybody
did you
involved.
see them when they came through Atlanta 96, 97
I did not.
at the Omni?
I did not.
Last show I saw at the Omni. And it's a testament to a band to me. There was one particular point in time in the show, and it was very obvious to me. It was obvious enough that even my wife noticed it, that I'm not going to I hate to out Peter on this, but they're in the middle of one song, and he goes to do a drum fill, and he drops a whole beat
Right.
in the drum fill, kind of comes out a little early, but within a half a beat, the entire band was right there with him.
Right.
And that kind of chemistry, even after that many years of not playing together, says a lot about those four guys and what they created together, and the fact that they can, as a band, again, this is
Still
kind
read
of,
each other,
it's kind
play
of
with-
missing in modern day, that guys get to play together so much that if one guy drops an entire beat on a drum fill, it takes literally an eighth note's worth of time for the entire band to know and be right on top of it. And other than, like, my wife she's bopping along, and all of a sudden she has to kind of reset.
Get it back.
That's really the only reason she even noticed. But it's a huge testament. So sorry to out you, Pete, but
But it's also
was
the beautiful
an
thing about
amazing
live
lesson.
music and playing in a band. It's mistakes happen, but you just play through, and
Yeah.
you got to keep going. Song's got to finish.
well, so we're talking about. We'll jump around in our order. Live gigs. That's a good segue right into the live gig talk. I tabled this because the past few weeks I've been having to hire some audio engineering assistants for a lot of live gig stuff. And it's been interesting to me, the reactions, even guys that send in their resume. They may not know totally about what the gig's about. They just know that here's a job that pays money.
Sure.
And they send a resume in. So I talk with them on the telephone as a pre-interview. And it was pretty astounding to me, the reaction that I would tell guys when I was telling them, and I was basically hiring them for a $20 an hour job.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily a favorable one. Guys that were like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I don't know that I'm into that. I thought I was gonna be a producer and win a Grammy.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
I'll take the job, but now that you're paying me, I don't want it.
Yeah. So it raises the question for me, in shaping your career, either in the beginning or even now, where we're at in our own careers. Should you always take every gig call? Should you say no to some things? Are there things that you may say yes or no to that push your career in a direction? I wanted to table that idea.
Sure.
Because I don't think it's something that a lot of guys talk about.
It's a loaded question. I mean,
Well, that's why I asked.
Well, there you go, Smarty. So I would say in the beginning, if you're starting out, yes, there's really not a gig you shouldn't take, because for multiple reasons. You have, whether it be a genre that you're not used to playing in,
Right.
or getting a chance to play with, let's say, older or seasoned players. That's the best experience you're ever going to get. Is
Right.
to, you can practice all you want in your room, but you got to get out there and play with people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a genre you've never played, so that can be a little risky.
Yeah. That's true.
as you get older, some of the gigs I would say don't take are any of the gigs that are for exposure.
Oh, gosh.
Because exposure does not equate to any money in your bank account.
And it's not the fun kind of exposure either.
No.
Or the kind you can get arrested for.
No, not that kind of exposure. It basically translates to, it's a free gig, and we want you to drive 8 hours to play for, a festival that you'll be on the third stage in the back that nobody's actually going to. But,
so there,
you know what I mean?
I think that there's and this, again, this is a show about us giving our honest opinions about things.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to be transparent and honest and say I'm disturbed that there's a trend, especially among professionals in our business, that there's a certain nobility to taking every gig.
Sure.
And saying that that you're working 6 nights a week. And, Monday night I've got this gig here, and Tuesday night I have this gig here, and Wednesday night I'm over. And you've seen some of the Facebook posts that people put up, and some, or we kind of alluded to it last week. Sometimes guys will, they'll Instagram pictures of them in their office.
Right.
And depending on which American flag is the backdrop,
what club they're in, or what room they're in, or what country club they're in.
Yeah, the color of the carpet, or which windows are behind. Like oh yeah, he's there. So there's a certain to me it's a false nobility that someone will now if you need the gig because you're making rent or your light bill, or you need to eat, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to sort of hang your hat on, especially if you're deeper into your career, let's say you've been playing professionally more than 10 years, getting paid to play more than 10 years, professionally at whatever level professional is to you, the idea that that taking some kind of 4-hour gig in a smoky club that you don't want to be in the first place, that is paying you $50 just so you can tell people that you're working, to me is sort of this false nobility, and you're really setting yourself up for a pattern that's going to keep you in a rut.
Sure.
Now, I think we can both agree, you never know who's going to play on a gig with you.
True.
You never know who's going to be listening to you while you play. And to me, at first, when you're first in your career, you should field any call that you feel like you can do, that you've got the vocabulary for,
right?
That you've got the repertoire for, you know the songs, or you can learn the songs pretty quickly. And you've got the right equipment for that job.
Right.
But there, again, I just listed off a whole lot of reasons why you might not want to take a gig call.
Right. If you have 24 hours to learn 70 tunes you've never played, it's probably a gig you shouldn't take.
You're setting yourself up in a losing position.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to come out well in a situation like that.
Right, and you're going to leave a lasting impression with people that may not be reality. It may not, you may, again, if you've got a song list of 70 tunes and you've never heard them, country band calls you and you've never heard country music before.
Or if you've never played the genre like we're talking about, it can be a challenge.
Right. If somebody calls me for a jazz gig,
right,
I have to ask a few questions to find out what kind of jazz gig it is.
Right.
Because if it's one of these avant-garde, we're playing in the basement of this little club downtown that seats 25 people, where we're on the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of music, I'm not taking that one.
Right.
Because while I'm pretty proficient with jazz and with music in general, I'm going to get myself into a situation where I'm going to be in way over my head. And guys are going to be left with, at least I feel, guys are going to be left with an impression that, wow, that guy's not very good.
Right. And then you probably wouldn't get a repeat call.
Yeah. And that's one of those where the guy who's playing saxophone on that gig may be the guy who plays saxophone in some really cool touring band that you've always wanted to be in.
So some of it is thinking, a little outside of yourself, going, okay, it's one thing to want a gig, but Are you qualified? Can you be ready by the time the gig is happening? And then that gets into the other, do your due diligence, do your homework.
Or if you roll up to the corporate wallpaper jazz gig with your Peter Criss drum set.
Right.
And you got all your shiny rack toms all laid out and your huge bass drum and you got all your cymbals and the one little splash cymbal right there. Even if you can play the style, I'll out myself. Okay. So the third gig I ever did in Atlanta, 1995, blues band.
Okay.
So if somebody called you and they had a blues band gig and you were thinking about the gear you needed to take, what would you take to a blues band gig?
Probably a fairly minimal kit, 4 to 5 piece.
Okay.
Ride, couple crashes, maybe a splash if you're feeling frisky.
Yeah.
But not too much.
Snare drum. What snare drum would you pick?
What? Well, I would pick probably a standard 5.5 by 14 aluminum. I mean, I'm taking a trick kit, so that's what I play 24/7. So that's what I'm.
This is not an official advertisement for trick drum. Mike, I'll expect your check on the front door.
He takes good care of me, so thank you, Mike Dorfman at Trick Drums.
No. All right, so okay, all those wonderful things that you said. So
what did you take?
Yeah, okay. Here's what Brian took.
Okay.
I started off with a 5-piece drum set.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
That was the nucleus of the kit.
Okay. All right. It gets better.
Yeah. I took a full cage rack, like heavy metal drummer.
I love it.
Tommy Aldridge back in the day.
Okay.
Cage
the full,
drum.
All right. Front and 2 sides.
2-tiered cage.
2-tiered.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to have the second tier because you got to have something to hang on.
Okay, this is getting good. Keep going.
So I had a 5-piece drum set, but I also had the rototoms.
Okay.
And I had a timbali.
You were coming to show.
Oh, you know what? I came to put on my show, man. We're doing a show here. Snare drum, piccolo snare. Crank to the heavens, baby. Pearl free-floating piccolo snare. Oh, man, it was snap. It was a gunshot.
Sounded beautiful, though, in the right context.
Not that one. And then cymbals, let's see, at the time, I think I had 4 crash cymbals, a regular ride cymbal, and a sizzly ride cymbal, a China cymbal, 2 splashes. I didn't just take the regular hi-hats. I had the X-hats, brother. Because if I was going to do my fancy little 2-handed...
So it took you longer to set up than your set was?
It took me longer to set up than I had in the entire day, I think. Like, I could have done 4 gigs in the time it took to set this.
But more importantly, how did the gig go?
Well, let's just say this. When the drummer that you don't know, that you came on a recommendation... shows up, sets his kit up. Now, of course, I was there 3.5 hours early, so I could set up that monstrosity. When you walk into this little club, sports bar, and it's the corner, it's not even a stage.
Right.
It's, all right, the drummer...
We're going to move a couple of booths, and this is where the band goes.
You're in the corner, and then everybody's kind of around you. If you walk in and you're a blues guitar player that loves Stevie Ray Vaughan, and you see that monstrosity... you turn around and decide that you walked in the wrong place. And so did the gig go well? I started off on the wrong foot. That wonderful a couple of dudes that walked in to play, and they were ready to lay it down and play some great music. We're sort of taken back by, what is this eyesore in the middle of, and it visually it took the focus off of the guitar player who fronted the band. And so even without doing anything, without saying anything, I was already upstaging the guy whose name was on the little poster on the door. The Billy Bob Smith Band. Mm-hmm. And his name wasn't Billy Bob Smith, thank goodness.
Sure.
Because that just puts us somewhere else.
But if you played the gig appropriately... then the amount of gear doesn't necessarily matter.
Oh, it mattered here. It mattered here. Yeah. They were definitely put off. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, double pedal. I brought my double pedal. Forgot. I knew I was forgetting something. I brought my double pedal and everything, dude. Of course, I only whipped out the double pedal for a few little
right, big endings.
But needless to say, it's a very good example of it's not necessarily difficult to get the first call. The call back really is the litmus test for how well you did.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily think that I played, other than the sound of the drums not matching. The sound of the drums at the time, for what I was playing, was definitely set up for a guy playing in a heavy metal band. 1995, I was still hanging on to it.
Right. Well, and that'd be another topic we can table for later, too, is drum setups in general, because I know there's a lot of guys that have a particular drum set that they use for all setups.
Yep.
A la Steve Gagg. Doesn't matter what gig he's doing, that's his kit. Or a Steve Smith, or, even locally, there's people we know that, I play a certain kit no matter what the gig.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like I have the right sound, the right sounds and the right sizes. And it's a comfort zone, but we can get into that.
Yeah. We'll put that on the spreadsheet. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely. But getting back to the
topic at hand,
the gigs to take or not to take, there can be some good questions there. Maybe we'll get some questions on that too.
Yeah. Feel free to, if you don't already kind of know the deal as we're talking about all this wonderful stuff, the sign behind us can tell you, or I can put a nice little graphic up because, we're fancy dancy like that. We got all the technology. You can call us 678-929-1230. And by all means, feel free to weigh in on the discussion. Tell us about Gig from Hell. I totally forgot about that. Do you have a great Gig from Hell story?
I have one that was fairly recent, a few years ago.
Last week?
No. Yeah, right. No, this was a few years ago, and it was almost. Is it possible to have an almost answer?
Yeah.
Because I won't name the artist name, but it was jazz guitarist. Myself and the bass player live here. We went all the way. We drove down to Sarasota.
Okay.
To do this gig, big jazz festival down there, right?
Yep.
They're supplying, all our per diem, food, hotel, the whole night, normal stuff. So we drive down there, and we get to the hotel. The rooms haven't been paid for.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you start the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's talk that one of the vendors has pulled out, so now the whole show may not happen. It's just one of these nightmares. So it was up until the 9th hour of this thing where we're not sure, So here we have given up a weekend worth of work in town to go do this gig. It all worked out, but that's probably about as close as it's gotten.
Best you can say about it.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Gig from Hell. The one thing I will say as an aside, because I'll probably do this way more than I should, I didn't hit the record on that button over there. Note to self, when I watch this later, hit the record button over there and make sure
it's a learning curve. We're still trying.
Yeah. We're still trying to get it together.
There's 7,500 buttons on these two tablets right here.
Sorry.
And we have the trackpad in front of us.
Yeah. So, Gig from Hell. Where do I start? Gee whiz. Do I want to talk about one that's in town or one that's out of town? Okay. So, one that immediately comes to mind for me is another one of those. This doesn't really pay a whole lot for this one, but since it's one of the first times we worked together, man, it'd be great to get you in on one of these gigs. Yeah, it'd be great to get you in on one of these gigs. We get you worked in the rotation,
right?
And all of a sudden, you could be gigging with us all the time, man. It'd be great to have you all the time.
Your gig to lose.
So it's one of those. It comes from an acquaintance who recommends you for a gig. And, you hop in that 70s van that's got the wood paneling on the side.
Nice.
And with the wood paneling towards the bottom and the top is the beachy sunset, but it's faded out. So it looks more like London on a April morning.
Right.
You know, you can't really tell where it is. And, duct tape on the back window. And so,
Security
of course,
film.
yeah. So, open the back of the van. There's no seats in the van.
Oh, nice.
PA is in the van. The little bit of lights that they use, which was really more like those clamp-on floodlights from Home Depot.
So now you got to shove all your drums on top of the open spaces.
Yeah, and that's also where you have to sit. Nice. Leave yourself enough room to sit, man. Just leave yourself enough room.
Please tell me it wasn't like an 8-hour gig.
Well, it was like 6 3/4.
Oh, Lord.
In the middle of Alabama.
Oh, that's a long ride.
Yeah. And, So, you pull up to the gig, and it's at a yacht club.
Okay.
Let me paint the picture for you. You know those lakes that people build in their front yards?
Yes.
They get a backhoe, and about a month later, there's a big hole that the rain collects in.
And they...
And that's the lake?
Yes.
Yeah. So this was a place on one of those.
Okay.
So,
So by yacht club, not so much.
Not so much so, no. Maybe it was, I don't know. It was tongue-in-cheek, I guess. But it had it in the name.
Okay.
So
staging? Was there an actual stage?
No. This was...
You're setting up in the dirt?
Yeah, no. This was it was inside.
Okay.
It was inside.
All right.
In the middle of June.
Ooh. In Alabama.
And the window unit was out.
Oh.
Yeah, window unit was out. And there was a concrete floor, but let's just say that a lot of the dirt that was out by the lake had made its way into the actual building itself. So it might as well have been a dirt floor. And it was also one of those where as you walk into the establishment, the sign on the door or next to the door says, "Check your firearms with the bartender."
Oh, okay.
So you can see where this is going.
Wow, yes.
Yeah. And so it was one of those kind of gigs. It was one of those kind of gigs that had a whole lot of silver wing shining in the sun. Yeah, it was one of those kind of gigs. So it was like the VFW gig without the VFW.
You may experience a lot of different things over the years.
Yeah, and the band house was literally somebody's house that the band stayed in. And so, you're sleeping on somebody's couch that their hunting dogs usually sleep on. And so let me go back to the first point of this whole discussion was, maybe you shouldn't take every gig.
Right. Do your due diligence and find out all the information. Ask the questions. What are you getting paid? How far is the gig? Are you? Oh,
wait a second. I forgot the best part about this gig from hell. You just reminded me. So the getting paid part.
Oh. This one, but you already led with it. This was an exposure gig.
Well,
do this one for me, and then you might be the
drummer full-time. You know the scene in the Blues Brothers where the club owner comes up and he goes, "Well, we're gonna pay you boys $200, and y'all drank $300 worth of beer." Way I see it, that's funny because it's true. And it was one of those situations where, the other guys in the band outdrank whatever it was that they were planning on paying us, or at least what they had offered as an honorarium for our service,
right,
and hospitality. So no one got paid, and there were a lot of excuses as to why that was the case. But so on top of all those other things, not getting paid. I would have taken a bounce check at that point.
But was the gig fun?
I don't know. You tell me. Didn't size up to be fun.
After you got the pat down of walking into the venue, probably not.
If you like watching people rub belt buckles all night, it was a hoot.
So ask questions. Whoever the band leader is on the gig, find out where you're going, what you're making.
Maybe find out
how long the gig actually is. Because that can be open-ended.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing a corporate gig, you're going to be there early and you're going to play, late in the evening. And it makes for a long day, but generally those kind of gigs pay real well. So
the edges are finally marked. Yeah. The boundaries for this are finally defined. But no, definitely a gig like this, it was fast and loose. And there was a lot of that, one more song, man, one more song. So maybe a piece of advice I could give to people is if you're referred for a gig, maybe just casually, as if you're curious, maybe you just ask, who do you usually use to play this gig, or who usually subs?
Right.
You know, as an element of the conversation, so that maybe you can get a few names of people that you might happen to know, and maybe you could do a little reconnaissance,
Do a little homework, so you know what you're getting up against.
And it's one of those. I'll admit there are a few times in my life where I've had gigs that have called, and I've had I've got something penciled on my calendar, but I don't really know that's going to happen. It was, can you hold this for me? Give me about an hour to call them and make sure this thing's not happening. I would hate to say yes to you and then end up double booking myself.
That's another topic. We'll come back to that in a minute.
I need to put the spreadsheet out right here on a double booking.
This is a PSA announcement here.
Okay.
If you take a gig and you commit, stay with the gig, because if you get a call a month later from another person, right, and they offer you, let's say it's $50 more, don't cancel on the first gig that you took to go make $50 more, because your credibility is everything. So if you take a gig, be committed to whoever you committed to first, stay there. That's one of the worst things you can do in any town.
Yeah.
And it creates a bad reputation for yourself. So anybody that does that out there, please stop, because you give all of us a bad name.
Well, yeah. Well, and there are certain cases where, like, I do have
it comes down to, if you're going to be a professional.
Right.
Like if I say I'm going to be here Monday at 11 o'clock and I show up at 12:30, you're not going to ask me to come back.
Well, that's true.
So there's no wiggle room on this. No. You commit.
There's none? I don't have any?
I would say no.
None?
Go ahead. What you got?
He's not calling me out, by the way. And I will say I do have a couple of people that I have played with for a very, very long time.
Sure.
That the kind of gigs that we do are very standards, by the book kind of things, where most any working drummer could walk in and play that gig with no prep at all. And if it's a situation where I've said yes to a particular date, and maybe I'm doing them a solid where it's a little less than we normally would make on something. I do have a couple of band leaders that will always throw the caveat, look, I appreciate you doing this one for me. I'm going to see if I can get the money up. If I can't, if you end up with something that really pays a whole lot more, then as long as you give me enough time.
Sure, that's a different situation.
But that's a dialogue. That's a dialogue.
And that's communicating.
There's an implicit permission to, if you do it the right way, put someone else in that. I had a situation like that a few months ago where I had an engineering thing that I'd committed to the next day.
Gotcha.
After a gig. So I had a gig on a Saturday and a location recording gig on a Sunday. Maybe 4 or 5 days before that, the guys I was working for the location gig needed to back up and do a lot of prelim the day before. It was a big concert recording. And I had to get a sub for that. Sure. And the band leader was, at least to my face, he was more than amenable.
Yeah, but you took the time. That's what I'm saying. You took the time. Yeah. If you're going to have to call out, or there's a medical emergency in your family, or whatever it is, take the time to fill the gig. Right. Don't call the guy the night of and be like, hey, I'm not going to make it.
Right. Hey, man, my battery's dead. You were supposed to be here like 15 minutes ago.
Right. Sound check was yesterday, doofus.
So now I will say you can really shape your career by which gigs you take and which gigs you don't take. You can shape your career positively and negatively.
Sure.
So you have to put some thought into what you're going to take, what you're going to say yes to, what you're going to say no to, and in some cases, a topic for another date. I'm just going to go back and put all these in the spreadsheet. There's a lot of stuff we could branch off into. I feel like sometimes I have shoehorned myself into a position because I've said no more times than I would like playing live gigs for doing studio stuff.
Right.
So that's another topic for another day, though.
And what we ought to do too, maybe, is shelve the next topic.
Okay. We are really trying to hold this to as close to an hour as possible. Because we could, if you went to lunch with us, it is like a 3-hour gab fest.
We should just start recording our lunches, and we could play it, and then we can be sitting here eating lunch while the thing is playing. We should have thought of that.
See, that's why you're smarter than me. That's a heck of a lot easier than setting up like all the cameras and the lights and 5 different.
So one of these episodes, I'll take a picture of everything that's going on here so everybody can see how hard poor Brian is working to make all this happen. It's unbelievable.
It's fun though. This is the closest thing I have to a hobby right now.
Having a good time, absolutely.
And we certainly appreciate you guys tuning in and watching or listening. When we get about 4 deep on this, you're going to see there's going to be a great website at dialadrummer.net. And you'll be able to there will be a podcast feed if you just want the audio version of this. And you don't really have time at noon on Mondays to tune in live and to participate. You'll be able to listen after the fact on the podcast. We got to get about 4 episodes deep before we can get all that stuff set up.
And we're still fine tuning. We'll get better in our dialogue as well. And, we're going to start knocking out more topics per show.
Yeah. And to remember that part of the hook of this show, and we're going to do this a lot of different ways, but one of the offerings that we are going to continue to throw up there is this call-in line that you can see back here on the graphic behind us, or you can see at the bottom of your screen.
Look at that.
678-929-1230 is our call-in line. At any point when we're doing a show live, you can call in and hit that little mouse pad a second. Let's see if there's any comments other than, hey, man, how y'all doing? Anyway, sorry. We're technology. We're working it out. But we're gonna leave that open. Anytime we're doing a live show, the call-in line will always be there. Eventually, this will become kind of like talk radio or sports talk radio, where if you want to weigh in on a comment on a topic, you got a comment about it, or if you've got a question you want to ask us, you'll be able to call in live. You can always hashtag us, and I didn't make one of those. But make sure that you follow us on all the different social webs. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/dialadrummer. You can also follow us at Twitter. The handle there is Dialadrummer as well. And you can also follow us on Instagram. All of our posts about the show that's coming up, who the guest is, maybe what the topics are going to be, those are all going to be there on our Instagram, as well as our Twitter. I'm pretty much going to try and let people know ahead of time what we're talking about if they want to weigh in on these conversations or if they have questions. I didn't make a graphic for this one, but you can always hashtag us. I do have this graphic. You can always hashtag us, hashtag Dialadrummer on Twitter. And I think you can do it on Facebook as well if you'd like to ask a question. Go to our Facebook wall. You can put up that question. If you don't want people to see what it is, you can PM us. You can also email us. This is where I need a pinch to zoom on this thing so that I can do. There we go. You can email the show, dialadrummer@gmail.com. And there's any number of ways you can reach out to us. If you've got questions, you've got comments. I've got some questions this week we're going to table next week. I wanted to be able to make some cool graphics for that and kind of really set that thing up. We've got some show segments that we're going to try out over the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
One of them we're going to call a group therapy session. It's good. We're going to be able to help alleviate each other's woes, and some people might call it a sin and moan session. But it's going to be lighthearted and funny. And if anything, it'll be a chance for us to bond with you guys and all that great stuff. So thanks so much for watching the show live or listening, the archive version. 1,000 people watched.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And or listened last week. Thank you to every one of those people. And that's all I got for today, Shannon.
Sounds good.
Is that enough?
I think we did all right today.
I hope so.
Then we'll get this dial-in thing going, and we'll. Again, baby steps. We're growing. We're good.
One thing at a time.
But thanks for checking us out. We appreciate you tuning in.
Right now, I got all kinds of flashy things, flashy toys.
Flash away, buddy.
Flashy toys, things that I can play with and have fun with here. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful?
All right.
That's all the cool stuff that I made for you this week. So anyway, make sure you follow us. And the thing I didn't say about the call-in line is you can use the call-in line if you want to leave a question, but you don't want to be live on the show, but you like hearing your voice on the interwebs. There is a voicemail on that thing. Very cool. If you call that call-in number, the
678-929-1230.
We finish each other's sentences. How about that? You can leave a voicemail, and we will play that voicemail on the show. Unless it's, God, you guys stink. This sucks. Don't do this anymore.
We'll play it too. That's okay.
Yeah, why not? It'd be fun. Anyway, thanks so much, guys. We will see you again next week, Monday at noon on Dial a Drummer.